Okay, welcome back, everyone. We are in middle of the the eighth chapter of Mishlei. We're making some headway over here. If you have missed out on any of the previous conversations, topics, they are on our YouTube page, which is youtube.com/Chazak. Everything is up there in category and nicely laid out. All of you have should have access to it. If you can't find it, just please send me an email or a message, and I'm happy to make sure that you have the link so you could keep up with the conversation. So we're in the middle over here, and last week we ended with the idea that Shlomo Melech says that God created the world. Before he creates the world, he looked into the Torah, and in the Torah itself were the blueprints, the instruction manuals for the creation of the universe. So it wasn't that first God creates the world, then he creates Torah. It's the exact opposite. He first creates a Torah and then uses the Torah as a blueprint for the creation itself. And now he's going to double click and expand on those ideas. So let me just pull up the text over here. Mishlei. Okay. So he says as follows. We're in Perek Chet Pasuk Chaf Bet. He says as follows. He says, Hashem konani reshit darko kedem miflot ma'az. Hashem acquired me at the beginning of his way, before his works of old. Me'olam nasachti merosh mekadmi aretz. From the distant past, I was enthroned. Mekadmi aretz, from those who that preceded the earth. Be'ein tehomot chalalti, be'ein mayanot nechamti mayim. Sorry, I was created when there was no depths, when there were no fountains, mayanot, that were filled with water. B'terem harim hitba'u. I was created before mountains sunk. Givot chalalti, before the hills or before the valleys. Ad shelo asa eretz v'chutzato, before the world had not yet had any of the outsides. There were no boundaries. V'rosho afro tevel, the beginning of the dust of the earth. Bechinu shamayim sham ani, when he established the heavens, there I was. B'chuko chug al pnei tehom, I drew a circle over the face of the deep. Ba'amso shchakim am'al, ba'azuz inaot tehom, when he made the skies above firm, he strained the fountains of the deep. We'll try to explain what these things are. B'sum'o layam chuko mayim lo yavru piv b'chuko mostei aretz, when he gave the sea its boundaries, the water would not pass what he commanded, when he established the foundation of the earth. V'heyeh etzlo amon v'heyeh shashuim yom yom. I was nursling beside him, and I was his delight every day. Mitzachek lefanav b'chol eit, playing before him at all times. Mitzacheket b'tevel arzo, playing with the tevel arzo, the habitual parts of the earth. Shashui et b'nei adam, and my delights with the children of man. Va'ata banim shimuli, my children listen to me. Va'ashrei darchi yishmeru, now my children listen to me, listen to my voice. And fortunate are those who observe my ways. This is repetitive, but this is King Solomon over here. He wants to drill the point in. Remember, King Solomon is repetitive not because he doesn't have new material. It's because he wants you to own the ideas yourself, right? The idea is that, education isn't something you just memorize and, repeat over and over again. The goal of an educator is to give over the material in a way where the material becomes owned by the listener, the student. My job is not to edutain you, right? Plenty of people are looking for classes they could go to where, they want to laugh, they want to hear stories and so on and so forth, which is great. That's not me. I would like to give over ideas ultimately that inspire each of you to take ownership over the material. I'm trying to make Shlomo Melech a bit more approachable. Don't be afraid to open up the book itself and go through it on your own. The idea of a mechanech, a rabbi, isn't to just go ahead and make you feel comfortable sitting in the back of your home, in the comfort of your homes, where you could hear information for the sake of hearing information. It's the whole purpose of going to a shiur is to get inspired enough to take ownership over the material. Right? So Shlomo Melech, he speaks in circles because he wants you to fall into the ideas. He's going to go round and round and round, and the hope is that you're going to fall into the idea where the idea becomes yours. Not just giving you a point to memorize and walk away. That's not learning. That's memorizing. If it becomes yours to own it, you got to repeat it over and over and over again until it sinks into from your mind down to your heart. This is the greatest distance in the world. So he says, Shim'u musar v'chachmu al tifra'u, listen to my discipline, become wise, and don't get lost. V'ashrei adam shomer li lishkod al daltote yom yom lishmor mezuzot petchi. Fortunate is the man who listens to me, to watch by my doors day by day, to watch the doorposts at the entrances. Ki matzach chaim v'yipek ratzon me'Hashem. For he who found me has found life, and he has obtained favor from the Lord. And he ends over here in this parag, v'choti chomes nafsho. But he who sins against me robs chomes nafsho. He robs his soul. Kol misanai ahavu mavet. All who hate me love death. That's how he ends. Okay, so let's try to make some sense of Shlomo Melech over here. Let's see if we could walk away with some more pearls of wisdom that we could unearth from his deep stuff over here. Okay, so he says as follows. Be'ein Te'omot chalalti. We said this is, I think, where we ended last week, that God formed the earth. It was there were no springs that were rich with water. Wisdom was fully reigning at the time. It set up guidelines for creation before the elements were separated. There was just the unity of God. There was only oneness. That oneness includes all of the wisdom necessary to sustain, create a universe. And boof, okay, creation moves forward. But Terem Harim, before the mountains were settled, before the hills were formed, wisdom was created before the mountains were sunk into the water, right? So we're talking about the earliest stages possible, ad lo asa, when he had not yet made the earth, before God made the dry land. Okay, Rashi tells us the earth refers to the land of Israel, not just any parts of the world, but here, lo asa, aretz, the aretz we're talking about is Eretz Yisrael, and everything else around it. V'rosh afrot tevel, or the first dust of the world. Wisdom was formed before God made the first dust of tevel, right? And another way of understanding it is this idea of dust is Adam Harishon, the first dust whose body, Adam's body was formed, fashioned from the earth itself. That's the Radak. Or the land of Israel. It's unclear what he's referring to over here, but it's either the just general dust before man was, living on the earth, or we're talking about Adam over here, or we're talking about the holiest part of the planet, which is Eretz Yisrael. So that he says like this: I prepared the heavens, right? Wisdom was present at the creation of the heavens because it was created before them. Now, why do we care? Does it really matter when wisdom was created? And the answer is yes. You see, there are some people that believe that there's something called evolution. Now, I believe in evolution, right? But I don't believe in evolutionary theory, because we see that things evolve. The difference is that in God's world that he created something called evolution, as opposed to the evolutionist, the theory of evolution, which suggests that everything just happened randomly, that things just evolve because of time. I don't see that. When I look at the world, I find a world that had tremendous amount of wisdom and order. And then eventually the order began to tweak itself. But that's not because of random acts of tweaking. I believe that's part of the system that God created with wisdom. So this is the way the argument goes. There is nothing, and you have a lot of space with all the elements in the universe. And eventually, if you have enough explosion of times, you'll have the Big Bang happening and everything comes into creation now. That means there was no chokhmah. There was no instruction. There was no nothing. It was just randomness. A random act happened in such that the universe was created. That's one random act. Then you had another random act that this random act created a solar system that you and I live in, randomly created a planet Earth that was the exact amount of distance between the Earth and the sun to create life, where you had water, which is the basis of all life on Earth, right? No ice, no gas, no vapor, just water itself. You have something like protein, which protein on a DNA level has 25,000 codes of DNA lining up perfectly to make one protein. My body is made up of billions of proteins, but one protein, 25,000 code of DNA have to line up perfectly. All these are random acts that the DNA understands how to create and build life. Okay, that it understands how to make eyes that can see the light outside and use the light for energy. Like we're talking about complex systems. This is why today so many scientists believe in the idea of something called panspermia, that aliens seeded life on Earth. It's just there's too many nuances to explain how all these random acts happened. But what is Shlomo saying? He's saying, Shlomo is saying, listen, my friends, if you're a paganist, he wasn't dealing with atheists yet. They didn't exist during his time. But paganists believed that there was a guy named Zeus, and he had some kids. And slowly, eventually, they made their wars. And from their wars, you have a evolution of people also. We reject those ideas. And ultimately, what we're saying, King Solomon is saying that everything in the universe first had a thought, machshava. Sof maseh machshava techila. That God had a very clear intention for everything that the world is expressing. And there is no random acts. There's nothing that is random. The people that we meet in life, the children, the family is perfect. It's what we need. It's exactly what God gives us, because that's what we need to grow. And that's what he's saying over here. He says that Bechino Shamayim, when God prepared the heavens, I was there. Wisdom was present. God had everything arranged perfectly. When he etched out the globe, right? He literally put a circle upon the face of the death. God spread the circle of the earth. That was not an accident. The boundary had a very clear vision and reason for it. When God formed the world, he made the laws of the Torah. It's in everything. Okay, therefore, a person who looks at the wonders of the earth, okay, with open eyes, you know what he sees? He sees the wisdom of God. When you find the wisdom of God, you also find the Torah itself. You find the wisdom of how the laws that God created are pegged into the Torah and its commandments. Okay, and these things are the spiritual foundation of creation, that everything that exists on a material plane exists because of a spiritual counterpart. And therefore, through our actions, we are able to empower those parts of creation and and allow the material world to exist. When he strengthened the heavens, the Torah was there at every stage of creation. Right? He put forth the sea. Wisdom was present there in the beginning. All of this is there in the beginning. Ibn Ezra quotes Jeremiah, who says that Israel, he warns that Israel should learn to fear God from the oceans, right? Because the oceans listen to God. God said, this is the boundaries, Sha'amar, Dai, Shakai, and they don't move. And what would happen if the water would not obey God's command? The world would be flooded, right? Rashi says over here, when God created the sea of reeds, he stipulated that it must split at Moses' command. This is the idea of that Maimonides says, that God puts into creation every necessary break of creation so that it could work. Otherwise, there's a system of chaos. But water will always behave like water. Water will always cling together no matter what happens. The fact that water separates is a chidush. That chidush had to be put into the program before actual creation. Bechuko mostei aretz. When he forged the foundations of the earth, wisdom was present. When God set forth the foundation of the earth, everything in the world has chokhmah behind it. There is nothing that does not have chokhmah. And I was there, his nursling. The Torah was like God's beloved child, nurtured by him, and the source of his constant delight. This is the world that God creates. Midrashically, the word uman or aman, amun, is related to the kli umnut, which is the tools of trade. The Torah was the craftsman's tool through which he fashioned the architectural plans of the earth itself, the blueprint, so to speak. Okay, so shashuim yom yom. I was then the delight of every single day. That means every day means 2,000 years. Okay, the Torah preceded creation by 2,000 years. We know that the world that Abraham Avinu comes on the scene for in the year 1948 of the Jewish calendar, right? We know that the first 2,000 years is called Tohu, and the second 2,000 years, right, which is the beginning of the year 2000, is Torah, right? And Yom Yom is 2,000 is based on the verse Ki elef shanim be'enech ki yom etmol, right? For even 1,000 years in your eyes is like like a blip yesterday. So therefore, for when we say Yom Yom referring to God, that refers to 1,000 years. For one day for God is 1,000 years. That is the Jewish idea, which is why the 7,000th year is God's Shabbat. It's Shemitah. Okay, this is why we believe that the Messianic era begins in the 6,000th year. You need to have the whole prep of Shabbat to the pre-Shabbat to get ready for the Messianic era. Right now we're in the year 5,781. Play before him at all times. God takes pleasure in the Torah's secrets that are beyond human comprehension, that even he creates a system that is beyond our ability to comprehend. But the people, that's us, are able to rejoice in the Torah on their own level of understanding. And I recommend this to all of you. Please spend time going back and going through the book. You'll find yourself as a young adult, all of you are young adults, looking back at these verses, these psukim, and finding tremendous amount of wisdom and depth behind them. Don't allow your own superficial reading and understanding of these texts be the definitive understanding of these texts. Push yourself beyond what you think you know. But you should treat it like a game. You play the game over and over again. Shashui et bnei adam, my delights are with mankind, the children of man. Rashi says the word mitzcheket is as laughing at. The Torah laughed, right? He's laughing at who? At the wicked generations, from Adam until Noah, from Noah until Abraham. He's always laughing, right? Why? Because the world got the Torah, and all these people made a mistake. And then he says, Shlomo Melech, be wise, follow the Torah and its teachings. Okay, after Shlomo Melech tells us about the Torah's effects on the cosmos, that God hid his wisdom in everything in the creation. Now he addresses the children, telling them to listen to everything that God says. Listen to me, right? How many times we wish our kids would listen, right? How many times just say, listen, just listen. We have a little bit more experience. It's so hard for a kid to listen to the parents, right? It's so hard for the student to listen to the rabbi. Everyone believes they know better. Doesn't matter how old or how young. I'm giving you this advice because I want to protect you. I don't want you to lose out, God. I only have your best interest in mind. Okay, over here the children refer to the Jewish people who are God's children, and praiseworthy. Ashrei darchei yishmor, right? Those are the people that listen to God. Those are talking to the people that observe God's Torah. Those are the people that are talking about the people there are the people that listen to God's commandments. And it's also referring to the non-Jews who follow the moral and ethical teachings of the Torah itself. Shim'u musar v'chachmu al tifra'u. Do not nullify my discipline. Don't ignore the discipline of becoming a greater human being. A person must first listen to the discipline and become a God-fearing human being. Only then will this person be able to go ahead and acquire Torah, which will keep him from nullifying the Torah's wisdom. The Ibn Ezra says that the study of discipline must precede that of wisdom. How could you find wisdom if you got no discipline? If I give you all of the greatest pearls of wisdom in the world, but you don't create a structure to maintain it, to retain it, to access it, it is useless. And therefore, more important than studying is first having a systematic approach to organizing the material and finding it again. That's key. The key to wisdom and understanding is order. You'll find out more about transforming chaos to order tonight at 7 p.m. at our, this is, I guess, a commercial right now, brought to you by the Edmund J. Safra Synagogue. At 7 p.m. we're having tonight our Get in the Zone for Pesach. Please join us at 7 p.m. You can find us at torahanytime.org/chazak, or on our Facebook page, or on Zoom, and so on and so forth. Okay, let's go on. I'm going to finish this chapter over here. Praiseworthy is the person who listens to me, who stands by every single door every single day, right? The person who's constantly showing up, the person who's committed, is the guy who's going to win at the end. You can't be disciplined, you can't find order. At least be committed and be there. Show up every single day. Show up every single day. The Chachamim point out that those people who are frequent the synagogues, okay, are going to merit a very, very long life. Okay, it doesn't say what you're going to do there, but you got to be there. You got to be there every single day. Got to show up. Rabbi Yochanan, the Gemara in Brachot, says that he was surprised when he heard that there were so many elderly Jews in Babylonia, because the Torah promises long life to people that only the people that live in the land of Israel. At least that's what he thought. But when he was told that the Jews in Bavel rose early and stayed in the synagogues, he said, "This is what makes them deserving of long life. For one who finds me has found life." That is what we're talking about. You not just a figurative form of life, but an extension of your life. To all of you transhumanists out there, you're trying to find a way of beating death. The way you beat death is by getting up early and going to the Knesset. My grandfather lived until he was 101 years old. He died on the second night of Hanukkah. He went to bed and just didn't wake up. He went to synagogue every single day. He became religious much later in his life. He went to the market every single day to buy his own fruit, his own food. He had a very strict diet, but every single morning the guy was up and out. It didn't matter, cold, rainy, snow, whatever it was, he was there. Lishmor mezuzot petchi, to guard the doorposts of my entrance. Just like a guard is constantly at his post, a person should also be constantly studying Torah as much as he can. Stop looking at your phone to check your stocks. Stop looking at your phone to check your texts. Why don't you check your phone and look at one pasuk of Rashi or one Mishnah on your phone, right? Substitute the itch to like pick up the phone and look at all these other things that are a waste of your time, and start investing your time through the small little glances of time that we steal away. Use that to develop a deeper appreciation, to expand your wisdom and knowledge. Ki motzi matzah chaim, because whoever finds me has found life. When you find the Torah, you also get all the blessings of life, both for his body and for his soul. V'yipek ratzon me Hashem, right? He finds favor in God. Hashem will be pleased with that person, will help him with whatever he desires. Never give up. You keep doing what is right. You keep doing your growth. You keep figuring out a way of expanding your wisdom, and you will continuously find bracha at every corner, at every step of the way. But one who sins against me, against God, that person ends up destroying his soul. Everyone has the potential to learn. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are. So someone who despises wisdom is robbing his soul and destroying it. Choti, another way of understanding it, is one who misses the target. Chet is someone who missed the target. One who studies Torah but misses the mark by misunderstanding it. That's the Ibn Ezra again, right? Kol misanai ahavu mavet. All who hate me love death. Since Torah brings life, its studying, its development, its musar brings us life. It follows, therefore, that whoever hates wisdom must love Satan, or the Malach HaMavet, or Sar Esav, right? The Chachamim add that those who hate me applies to those who cause me, the Torah, to be hated as well, right? Don't disparage the Torah itself. Don't disparage a Torah scholar. Don't speak badly about those people, because you do that, that means you hate God. You hate God, you hate life. God forbid, what he's really saying over here is that you actually shorten your life. Okay, he ends in a very negative kind of way, because he's he's frustrated by the people just constantly ignoring. And in the next parak, the first 6 psukim, Shlomo Melech is going to describe the feast prepared by a wise woman. He's going to speak about what it is to be married to a wise wisdom, a woman of wisdom, and give us some detail into how to find that special girl with the special traits. So God willing, we'll pick up over here next week. We won't be on actually. We'll be off for Pesach. We are wishing you all a Chag Kasher v'Sameach. May we all experience true freedom together. May we have the clarity to recognize that God created a world with its beautiful details, with wisdom, so that we could find long life and happiness. May we find that happiness. May we live in happiness. May we spend Yerushalayim, may we spend this Pesach, may the end of Pesach, second days of Pesach at Yerushalayim together. B'meher b'yameinu. Have a great night. We'll see you all later. Shabbat Tov. Happy holidays, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Shabbat Tov. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
See you later and get into the zone.
That's right. We'll see you get into the zone.
Okay. I hope so.
Bezrat Hashem, you will.